Hana woke to the feeling of something warm and soft pressed against her side. For a moment she could not remember where she was. Then memory came back slowly. The cold, the fever. The cubs! She opened her eyes. Sunlight streamed through the window. Not real sunlight, of course. The ship's system simulated day and night for the crew's health. But it felt real enough. The warm thing against her side shifted. Zim. The little cub was curled up next to her, fast asleep. Around the room, the other 6 cubs were sleeping too, some on chairs, some on the floor. Kip had somehow managed to curl up in a small gap between 2 stacks of blankets. Hana tried to sit up. Her body protested, but it was different now. The sharp pain was gone. The terrible aching had faded. She felt weak and tired, but clean somehow. Clear-headed. The fever had broken. Mira's ears twitched. She had been sleeping in a chair near the bed, but now her eyes opened. She looked at Hana. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. Then Mira's eyes went wide. "You're better," Mira whispered. "Your eyes are clear again." The whisper woke the others. One by one, they stirred and looked up. When they saw Hana sitting up, truly awake and alert, something magical happened. 7 small faces lit up with pure joy. Kip scrambled out from his blanket nest. Tess jumped up from the floor. Then Laura and Pix moved closer. They surrounded the bed, all of them trying to touch her at once. Small paws on her arms, soft heads pressed against her sides, tails wrapping around her in gentle embraces. "We thought you were going away," Kip said. His voice trembled. "We thought you would not come back." Hana pulled him close. Pulled all of them close. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were good tears. Happy tears. "I told you I would be okay. I just needed time to get better." "We kept you warm," Tess said proudly. "Just like you keep us warm." Hana looked around at the mountain of blankets. There had to be at least 20 of them. Maybe more. All different colors and sizes. "You certainly did. Where did you find all these?" "Everywhere," Ven said. "Every storage room. Every sleeping pod. We looked and looked until we found them all. We even took one from First Officer Threx," Pix admitted. "But he said it was okay. He said we were doing good work." Hana laughed. It felt good to laugh. Her throat was still a bit sore, but not like before. That must have surprised him. "He helped us carry some," Mira said. "The really heavy ones. He is not so scary anymore." The door chimed. Dr. Yuna entered, her medical scanner already out. She saw Hana sitting up and smiled. "Good morning. How do you feel?" "Tired, weak, but so much better." Hana looked at the cubs. "Thanks to my excellent nurses, Dr. Yuna ran her scans. Your fever is gone. Vitals are good. You are definitely on the mend, but you still need rest. A few more days of taking it easy. Can I go back to work?" Hana asked hopefully. "Light work only, and the cubs can visit you here for now. Let them do the walking instead of you." Dr. Yuna smiled at the 7 small beings, though it looks like they might not want to leave anyway. She was right. The cubs stayed all day. They brought their toys to her room. They played quietly nearby, always keeping her in sight. When she needed to rest, they rested too, curling up in various spots around the room. When she was awake, they climbed onto the bed to show her drawings they had made or tell her stories about what had happened while she was sick. Elder Vesa visited in the afternoon. She sat in the chair by the window and watched the cubs with Hana. Her old eyes were thoughtful. "I have sent a report to the Vryn Council," she said quietly, "about what happened here, about what the cubs learned from you." "What did you tell them?" Hana asked. "The truth, that our methods of raising young need to change. That emotional connection is not weakness but strength. That these 7 cubs have learned something we lost long ago." Vesa paused. "They are skeptical, of course, but they agreed to observe when the cubs return home. To see how different they are, how much stronger." Hana felt a pang in her chest. "They are going home?" "Not for several more months. The mission continues. But when they do return, they will carry something precious back with them. The knowledge that love is not foolish, that caring for others makes you strong, not weak." Hana watched the cubs play. Mira was helping Kip build a tower with blocks. When it fell down, she did not laugh at him. Instead, she patted his head and helped him start again, just like Hana had done for her so many times. "They learned from you," Vesa said softly. "And now they teach each other." "Watch them. See how they comfort each other? How they share. That is not normal Vryn behavior. That is learned. From you." By the 5th day, Hana was well enough to return to the childcare center. The cubs cheered when Dr. Yuna gave permission. They ran ahead of her, excited and happy, their tails held high. The center looked the same as always. Bright colors, soft cushions, toys scattered everywhere. But something felt different. Better. First Officer Threx was waiting there. He stood straight and formal as always, but his eyes were softer than before. "Welcome back, Caretaker Hana." "Thank you, First Officer." He looked at the cubs. They looked back at him without fear now. "I was wrong about you," he said. "About what you were teaching them. I thought you made them soft, but you made them strong in a way I never understood." Hana smiled. "You can learn too. It is never too late," Threx nodded slowly. "Perhaps. The cubs have shown me that." He turned to leave, then paused. "I kept one blanket. The one they took from my quarters. As a reminder." "A reminder of what?" "That sometimes the smallest beings teach the biggest lessons." Captain Day stopped by at the end of the day. He found Hana in the reading corner with all 7 cubs piled around her. She was reading them a story about a brave knight and a gentle dragon. The cubs listened with rapt attention, their eyes wide. "I received messages from 3 other ships," the captain said quietly, so as not to disturb the story. "They all want human caretakers now. Word has spread about what happened here." Hana looked up from her book. "Really? Really? The Interspecies Alliance is calling it a breakthrough in cultural exchange. They want to expand the program." He smiled. "You started something important, Hana. You and 7 cubs who just wanted to keep you warm." Later, as Hana tucked the cubs into their sleeping pods, each one hugged her extra tight. Kip was last, as always. He held her hand when she tried to leave. "If you get sick again," he said seriously, "we know what to do now. We will take care of you. We will keep you warm." Hana touched her forehead to his. "I know you will. You are all so brave and kind. I am proud of you. We learned from you," Kip said sleepily. "You showed us how." As Hana walked back to her quarters that night, she thought about everything that had happened. A simple cold had become something so much more. It had taught everyone on the ship about the power of care, about the strength in gentleness, about how love could be learned and shared across the vastness of space. In her room, the mountain of blankets still waited. She had tried to return them, but somehow she could not. Each one represented a small act of love from a frightened child. Each one was precious beyond measure. She kept them all. Every single one. And on cold nights, when the ship's heating felt insufficient, she would wrap herself in those blankets and remember. Remember 7 small beings who had shown the entire ship what it meant to care, what it meant to love, what it meant to be strong in the gentlest way possible. Outside her window, stars streamed past in endless silver threads. The Harmony's promise continued its journey through the dark. But inside the ship, something warm and bright had taken root. Something that would spread from this vessel to others, from these cubs to their whole world, from one human woman to countless species across the galaxy. The simple gift of warmth, the power of caring, the strength of love. And it all started because she caught a cold and 7 cubs brought her every blanket on the ship. A soft chime woke Hana from her fevered sleep. She opened her eyes slowly. Everything hurt. Her head pounded. Her throat felt like sandpaper. The single blanket Dr. Yuna had left was not enough. She shivered, pulling it tighter, but the cold came from inside her bones. The chime sounded again. Someone at her door. "Come in," she called. Her voice was barely a whisper. The door slid open. No one stood in the entrance. Hana blinked, confused. Had she imagined it? Was the fever making her hear things? Then she saw movement near the floor. Small, quick. Kip. The smallest cub dragged something behind him. It was huge compared to his tiny body. Almost as big as he was. A blanket. Bright blue with silver stars, the kind used in the sleeping pods. He pulled it with both hands and his teeth, determined but struggling. "Kip?" Hana tried to sit up. "What are you doing here?" He did not answer. Could not answer with the blanket in his mouth. He dragged it across the floor with single-minded focus. When he reached her bed, he stood on his back legs and tried to push the blanket up onto the mattress. It was too heavy. He struggled, his small face showing fierce concentration. Hana reached down and helped him lift it. The blanket was warm and soft. Kip carefully spread it over her, patting it down with his small paws. His large eyes looked at her with such concern, such pure worry, that Hana felt tears prick at her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, little one." Kip touched her forehead gently with his nose. Then he turned and ran out of the room, his small feet pattering on the metal floor. Hana lay back down, now wrapped in 2 blankets. It was better, warmer. She closed her eyes, grateful for the small comfort. The door chimed again. This time she was ready. "Come in." Mira and Tess entered together. Each carried a blanket. Mira had a green one with geometric patterns. Tess dragged a soft purple one that kept sliding out of her grasp. They moved carefully, watching Hana's face for any sign of pain or distress. They added their blankets to the pile. Mira tucked the edges in carefully, the way Hana always tucked them in at night. Tess patted the blankets down, making sure they covered every part of Hana. "You're cold," Mira said softly. It was not a question. "A little," Hana admitted, "but this helps. Thank you both." The cubs stood by her bed for a moment longer. They looked at her with such worry. She wanted to tell them she would be fine, wanted to explain that humans got colds all the time and recovered, but her throat hurt too much to say it all. So she just smiled at them. A weak smile, but real. They left together, whispering to each other in their language. Through her translator, Hana caught fragments. Words about warmth, about safety, about keeping her comfortable. More came. Throughout the day, the cubs made trip after trip. Fen brought an orange blanket spotted with white dots. Laura carried a heavy thermal blanket that was almost too much for her to lift. Pix dragged in a decorative wall hanging that he had somehow decided was a blanket. Zim brought 3 smaller blankets, making multiple trips because he refused to leave any behind. Each time they came, they checked on her, patted the blankets, made sure she was covered. Their small faces were so serious, so determined. They were taking care of her the only way they knew how, giving her warmth, giving her comfort, giving her exactly what she always gave them. By midday, Hana was buried under a mountain of blankets. She could barely move, but she was warm, so wonderfully warm. And more than that, she felt loved. The door opened again. This time it was not a cub. First Officer Threx stood in the doorway, his eyes wide. He stared at the pile of blankets, at Hana's face barely visible among all the fabric. "The cubs," he said slowly. "They have been raiding every storage closet on the ship." "I'm sorry," Hana said. "I didn't ask them to." "No." Threx stepped into the room. He looked at the blankets again, then at her. "You do not understand. This is remarkable. Frin cubs do not behave this way. They do not think to care for others. They are too young, too focused on their own needs." "Maybe they learned it," Hana whispered. Threx was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, they learned it. From you." He left without another word. But something in his expression had changed. Something had softened. The cubs came back, all 7 of them this time, moving as a group. They did not bring more blankets. Instead, they sat down around her bed, on the floor, on chairs, anywhere they could fit. They watched her with big, worried eyes. "We stay," Kip announced. "We keep watch." "You don't have to," Hana said. "You should go play, be with each other." "No," Mira said firmly. "You stay with us when we are scared." "We stay with you." Hana felt tears roll down her cheeks. She could not stop them. These small beings, these children from another world, understood something profound. They understood that presence mattered, that being there for someone who was suffering meant everything. "Thank you," she whispered. "All of you, thank you." They settled in. Some curled up to sleep. Others watched her quietly. Laura held Hana's hand, her small paw warm and soft. Zim climbed carefully onto the bed, curling up against her side without putting weight on her. His purring was a gentle vibration, soothing and constant. The door opened. Captain Day stepped inside. He stopped, taking in the scene. 7 cubs, mountains of blankets, Hana barely visible in the middle of it all. "Well," he said softly, "I see you have excellent medical care." Hana tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. "The best." The captain looked at the cubs. They looked back at him, their faces showing determination. They were not leaving. Not for anyone. "I'll have meals sent here," he said. "For all of you." He paused at the door. "This is going in my report, you know. The Interspecies Alliance needs to know about this." "Know about what?" Hana asked. Captain Day smiled. "That love can be learned. That compassion crosses species lines. That 7 small cubs understand something that many adults have forgotten." He left them there, 7 cubs and 1 sick human, surrounded by blankets and warmth and something stronger than either. They sat together through the long hours. When Hana's fever spiked and she shivered despite all the blankets, they pressed closer. When she cried from the pain in her head and throat, they made soft, comforting sounds. They took turns sleeping, making sure at least some of them stayed awake to watch her. If she stirred, they were there immediately, checking on her with gentle touches and worried eyes. Word spread through the ship. The human caretaker was sick. The cubs were taking care of her. Crew members from different species found excuses to walk past her quarters, to peek through the window. What they saw made them stop and think. Elder Vesa watched the longest. She stood outside the door, her old eyes seeing something important. Something that would change the way her people thought about raising their young. 7 cubs doing what no Vryn cub had done in recorded history, caring for another being with deliberate, thoughtful compassion, and all because one human woman had shown them day after day that being cared for was not weakness. That warmth and comfort and love were not things to outgrow. That the universe could be a gentle place if you made it so. The cubs had learned. And now they were teaching everyone else. The second day was worse than the first. Hana's fever climbed higher. She drifted in and out of sleep, her dreams confused and strange. Sometimes she thought she was back on Earth. Sometimes she did not know where she was at all. But through it all, the cubs stayed. They moved around her quietly, speaking in whispers. When she opened her eyes, at least 2 of them were always watching. Keeping guard, Elder Vesa called a meeting in the ship's conference room. Captain Day attended. So did First Officer Threx, Dr. Yuna, and Ambassador Prill, the aquatic Marinth who led the diplomatic mission. Engineer Nix was there too, his crystalline body reflecting the room's lights in rainbow patterns. Vesa stood at the head of the table. Her old eyes were bright with excitement. I need you all to understand what we are witnessing. This is unprecedented, not just for Vryn cubs, but possibly for any young species we know. They brought her blankets, Ambassador Prill said. Her voice came through a water-filled speaker, bubbling and strange. That is kind, yes, but unprecedented. Let me explain something about illness, Dr. Yuna said. She pulled up a display showing human biological data. When most species get sick, their immune system either wins quickly or they die quickly. There is no middle ground, but humans are different. She showed images of human cells fighting infection. The human immune response is slow and methodical. It takes days. During this time, the human remains conscious. They suffer, but they live. They are aware of their pain. They know they are sick, and they survive it. My people do not have this, Threx said quietly. If a Vryn gets that sick, death follows within hours. We have never evolved to care for the sick because the sick do not stay sick long enough to care for. Exactly, Vesa said. She looked at each of them. Humans evolved to endure illness, and because they endure it while conscious, they developed something else. The need to comfort those who suffer, to care for those who are in pain but not dying, to sit with someone through their long recovery. Engineer Nix made a sound like chiming crystals. His species had no concept of illness at all. They simply regenerated damaged parts. So human weakness created strength? Not weakness, Dr. Yuna corrected. A different kind of strength. The strength to keep living while your body fights an internal war. The strength to remain yourself while everything hurts. And the strength to help others do the same. Captain Day leaned forward. And the cubs have learned this from Hana. Yes, Vesa said. They have learned that comfort matters. That presence during suffering is valuable. That giving warmth to another being is not wasteful but essential. Hana taught them by doing it for them. Day after day. And now in her time of need they understand. They give back what she gave them. Threx stood suddenly. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. His tail moved slowly, a sign of deep thought. I told her she was making them soft. I said she was teaching them weakness. You were wrong, Vesa said gently. She taught them something my people forgot long ago if we ever knew it at all. She taught them that caring for others is not weakness. It is the foundation of everything strong. Threx turned to face them. When these cubs return home, they will be different from any Vryn children in our history. They will expect comfort. They will offer comfort. They will not understand why others do not. Is that bad? Captain Day asked. Threx was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No. I think it might be the best thing that ever happened to my species. Ambassador Prill made a sound through her speaker. My people should learn this too. We leave our young to develop alone. Believing independence must be learned in isolation. But what if we are wrong? What if connection is more important than independence? We all have much to learn, Vessa said. From humans. From each other. From 7 small cubs who understand something we forgot. Back in Hana's quarters, the cubs continued their vigil. Kip had fallen asleep holding her hand. Mira sat by her head, gently stroking her hair the way Hana always stroked theirs. Tess had climbed under the blankets and curled against Hana's side, offering her body heat. The others watched quietly. When Hana stirred and moaned softly in her sleep, they all leaned in closer. When she shivered, despite all the blankets, they pressed against the bed, trying to share their warmth. Dr. Yuna came to check on Hana. She scanned her vitals and nodded with satisfaction. The fever is starting to come down. Her body is winning the fight. When will she wake? Van asked. His voice was small and worried. Soon, maybe tomorrow. Her body needs rest to heal. Dr. Yuna looked at the cubs. You should all rest too. You have been here for hours. We stay, Pick said firmly. The others nodded in agreement. Dr. Yuna smiled. I thought you might say that. I will bring food for all of you. She returned with meals appropriate for each cub. They ate quietly, never taking their eyes off Hana for long. After eating, they settled back into their positions around her bed. First Officer Threx came to visit. He stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching. The cubs noticed him but did not leave their posts. They stayed with Hana, protective and devoted. Finally, Threx spoke. I owe you all an apology. 7 pairs of eyes turned to him. I did not understand what Hana was teaching you. I thought she was making you weak. But I see now that she made you strong. Stronger than I ever was at your age. Stronger than most Vryn adults ever become. His voice was rough with emotion. You know how to love. That is the greatest strength of all. Mira tilted her head. You can learn too. It is not too late. Threx looked at her with surprise. Then slowly he smiled. It was the first time any of the cubs had seen him smile. Perhaps you are right, little one. Perhaps I can. He left them there, still watching over their human friend. As he walked the corridors back to his station, he thought about his own childhood. Cold and efficient, no comfort offered, none expected. He had thought that made him strong. But watching these cubs, seeing their dedication and love, he realized something important. He had confused hardness with strength. They were not the same thing at all. Throughout the ship, other crew members were having similar realizations. The coral engineer began spending more time with the younger members of his species, offering guidance and patience he never would have considered before. Ambassador Prill sent messages home, suggesting changes to how Marinth young were raised. Even Captain Day, who thought he understood humans well, learned something new. He recorded a personal log entry that night. We bring different species together hoping to share technology and knowledge, but the most valuable thing we share is not information. It is the capacity to care for each other. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy might not be their machines or their science. It might be their stubborn belief that everyone deserves comfort, everyone deserves warmth, everyone deserves love. He paused, then added, and 7 small cubs have proven that this gift can be passed on, that it can be learned, that it can change everything. In her quarters, Hana slept deeply for the first time since falling ill. Her fever had broken. Her body was healing. And all around her, 7 small beings kept watch, offering the same devoted care she had always offered them. They had learned well, and they would never forget. Hana woke up feeling like someone had stuffed her head with cotton. Her throat burned. Her body ached in places she did not know could ache. When she tried to sit up, the room spun slightly. She fell back against her pillow with a groan. This was bad. She reached for her communication device with a shaking hand and pressed the button for medical. Dr. Yuna's face appeared on the small screen. The doctor took one look at her and frowned. You look terrible. Thanks, Hana croaked. Her voice sounded awful. I think I'm sick. Stay there. I'm coming to you. Dr. Yuna arrived within minutes. She was efficient and gentle as she examined Hana, taking readings with her medical scanner. Finally, she sat back and sighed. You caught a cold. Probably from that trading station we stopped at 3 days ago. A cold? Hana tried to laugh, but it hurt her throat. Just a cold? Just a cold. But you need to rest. Stay in bed. Drink lots of water. Your body needs to fight this off. Dr. Yuna pulled out a small container of medicine. Take this for the fever. It will help with the aches too. Hana shook her head weakly. I have to work. The cubs need me. The cubs will be fine for a few days. You won't be if you don't rest. Dr. Yuna's voice was firm. That's my medical opinion. But Hana could not stay in bed. She could not let the cubs down. After Dr. Yuna left, she forced herself to get dressed. Everything took twice as long as normal. Her hands fumbled with buttons. Her legs felt weak. But she managed. The walk to the child care center felt like climbing a mountain. Every step took effort. She was cold despite the ship's normal temperature. Her skin felt too sensitive, like everything hurt to touch. By the time she reached the door, she was breathing hard and covered in sweat. The door opened. 7 small faces turned toward her. For a moment, everything was normal. Then Kip's nose twitched. His ears went flat. He took a step back, his eyes wide with fear. Hana? Mira's voice was small and scared. The other cubs noticed now. They could smell it, she realized. Could sense that something was wrong with her. Their enhanced senses picked up on her fever, her rapid heartbeat, the changes in her scent that meant illness. I'm okay, Hana tried to say, but her voice came out as a rough whisper. Just a little sick. Nothing to worry about. Tess started to cry. The sound was high and frightened, nothing like her normal happy chirps. Ven pressed against the wall, his tail wrapped tight around his body. Laura ran to the corner and curled into a ball. They thought she was dying. Hana took a step forward, reaching for them, wanting to comfort them. But her legs gave out. She fell to her knees, catching herself on her hands. The room tilted around her. Pix bolted from the room, moving faster than Hana had ever seen him move. She heard his voice in the corridor, calling for help in his native language. The words tumbled over each other in panic. Within seconds, First Officer Threx appeared in the doorway. His eyes went from the crying cubs to Hana kneeling on the floor. His expression changed from confusion to alarm to something that looked like genuine fear. What happened? He moved to her side quickly, carefully. His hands hovered near her shoulders but did not touch. Are you injured? Just sick, Hana managed. Common cold. I'll be fine in a few days. Threx's face showed he did not understand. She could see him trying to process her words. Sick but not dying? Ill but still conscious? These concepts did not translate well. Captain Day arrived next, followed by Dr. Yuna, who looked very unhappy. The captain knelt beside Hana, his face full of concern. Why aren't you in bed? The cubs, Hana whispered. They need me. What they need is for you to get better. Captain Day looked at Dr. Yuna. Help me get her to medical. No, Hana said, trying to stand. Please let me explain to them. They're scared. She looked at the cubs. They were all crying now, even brave little Mira, their tails lashed with distress. Their ears were flat against their heads. They looked at her like she was already gone. Listen, Hana said, forcing strength into her voice. I'm sick, yes. But humans get sick like this sometimes. We get better. A few days and I'll be fine. I promise, but they did not believe her. She could see it in their eyes. In their experience, being this sick meant death. There was no middle ground. You were healthy or you were dying. There was nothing else. Threx spoke to them in their native language. His voice was gentle, more gentle than Hana had ever heard it. He was trying to comfort them, but the cubs only cried harder. Enough, Captain Day said firmly. Hana, I'm ordering you to medical. Threx, can you stay with the cubs? Of course. Threx looked at the cubs with something soft in his eyes. Something that might have been understanding or regret. Dr. Yuna and Captain Day helped Hana to her feet. Each step away from the cubs felt wrong. She could hear them crying behind her. Could hear Kip calling her name over and over. In medical, Dr. Yuna ran more tests. She gave Hana medicine and plenty of water. The captain sat nearby, his face serious. How long? He asked the doctor. 3 to 5 days for full recovery. The fever should break within 2 days if she rests. The captain nodded slowly. Then he looked at Hana. I know you want to be with the cubs, but you need to take care of yourself first. That's an order. Sir? Hana started to protest. An order, Hana. Go to your quarters. Rest. We'll take care of the cubs. She wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but she was so tired. Her body hurt so much. And the captain was right. She could not help anyone if she collapsed. Okay, she whispered. Dr. Yuna helped her back to her quarters. The walk was a blur of corridors and concerned faces. Other crew members saw her and looked alarmed. Word was spreading fast. The human caretaker was sick. Really sick. In her quarters, Hana crawled into bed. Dr. Yuna tucked a single thermal blanket around her and activated the environmental controls to make the room warmer. "Sleep," the doctor ordered. "I'll check on you in a few hours." Hana closed her eyes. The room felt cold despite the heater. Her body shivered. She pulled the thin blanket tighter around herself, but it was not enough. She was so cold, so tired, so worried about 7 small cubs who thought she was dying. She drifted into an uneasy sleep. In her dreams, she heard crying. Small voices calling for her. Little hands reaching out, unable to find her. And somewhere in the distance, the sound of small feet running through corridors. Running with purpose. Running with determination. Running to help the one who had always helped them. Hana pressed her hand against the cool glass of the observation window. Stars streaked past like silver threads against black silk. The ship hummed beneath her feet, a steady rhythm she had learned to love over the past 8 months. Behind her, 7 small voices chirped and trilled in their native language. The Vryn cubs were playing their favorite game, something that looked like tag but involved more jumping and tail-grabbing than any human game she knew. She turned to watch them. Kip, the smallest, was trying to catch Mira, who was twice his size and much faster. His little face showed pure determination as he leaped from cushion to cushion. When Mira let him catch her tail, the joy in his wide eyes made Hana smile. The other cubs cheered, their ears twitching with excitement. This was her life now. Caretaker aboard the Harmony's Promise. A ship that housed 7 different species all trying to live together in peace. When Captain Day had first offered her this job, she had laughed. Her? Taking care of alien children. She could barely keep a houseplant alive back on Earth. But something in his eyes told her this mattered. This was important. So she said yes. That was 8 months ago. Now she could not imagine doing anything else. Tess tumbled over to her, breathing hard from running. The cub's fur was soft gray with darker stripes, and her large amber eyes looked up at Hana with complete trust. Without words, Tess raised her small arms. Hana bent down and picked her up, settling the cub against her hip. Tess immediately curled into her warmth, purring softly. The other cubs noticed and came running. They did this every day. No matter how much they played and ran around, they always came back to her for comfort. Ven pressed against her leg. Laura wrapped her tail around Hana's ankle. Pix and Zim sat down at her feet, leaning against each other but staying close to her. First Officer Threx stood in the doorway, watching. He was Vryn too, but adult, tall and powerful with dark fur and sharp eyes. He did not approve of how close the cubs had become to Hana. She could see it in the way his tail twitched, the way his ears flattened slightly when he saw them pile around her. He stepped into the room. All the cubs froze. Their ears went flat against their heads. Even little Kip stopped playing and moved closer to Hana. "Caretaker Hana," Threx said. His voice was deep and formal. "I must speak with you." "Of course." Hana gently set Tess down and knelt to eye level with the cubs. "Why don't you all work on your drawing project?" "I'll be right over there if you need me." The cubs nodded, but their eyes stayed on Threx. They did not like him, she knew. He was too stern, too cold. Not like the elders back on their homeworld, but something harder. Military. Hana walked with Threx to the far corner of the child care center. Through the clear walls, she could still see the cubs. They had gathered around the drawing table but kept glancing at her. "You are making them soft," Threx said quietly. "They should not need constant physical contact. They should not seek comfort so easily." Hana took a slow breath. They had this conversation before. "They're children." "They need to feel safe. They need to know someone cares about them." Vryn cubs are taught independence from a young age. What you call care, we call weakness. "Then maybe," Hana said gently. "Your way could use some adjustment." Threx's eyes narrowed. For a moment she thought he might argue. But then he simply shook his head. "When they return home, they will not fit in anymore. You are changing them." "Maybe that's not a bad thing," Hana whispered. Threx left without another word. His tail swept behind him, stiff with disapproval. Hana watched him go and felt a familiar ache in her chest. She was not trying to change the cubs. She was just trying to love them. Was that so wrong? The rest of the day passed like most days. Story time in the reading corner, where she read human fairy tales that the translation program struggled to convert properly. Mealtime, where she helped the smaller cubs reach their food and made sure everyone ate enough. Playtime in the soft room where they could climb and jump safely. Through it all, the cubs stayed close. They held her hand when they walked down corridors. They climbed into her lap during quiet time. When Zim had a small accident and tore his favorite toy, he came to her crying. She held him until the tears stopped, then helped him fix it with gentle stitches. Elder Vesa visited near the end of the day. She was ancient by Vryn standards, her fur gray with age, her movements slow but graceful. Unlike Threx, she approved of Hana's methods. She often sat quietly in the corner, just watching and taking notes. "They trust you completely," Vesa said softly as she watched Hana braid colorful strings into Mira's fur. The cub sat perfectly still, eyes half closed with contentment. "I hope so," Hana replied. "That's important, isn't it? For children to trust the adults caring for them. Among your kind, yes. Among mine," Vesa paused. "We have forgotten this, I think. Or perhaps we never knew it." Evening came. The ship's lights dimmed automatically, signaling sleep time for most species aboard. Hana helped each cub into their sleeping pod. These were designed for Vryn physiology, with soft walls and just the right temperature, but the cubs had added their own touches. Drawings taped to the walls, small toys arranged carefully, pictures of Hana that they had drawn, placed where they could see them. She tucked Kip in last. He was so small, barely 4 years old in human terms. His pod seemed too big for him. He grabbed her hand when she tried to leave. "Don't go," he whispered in his language. The translator in Hana's ear turned it into soft words. "I'm just going to my room," she said, stroking his soft ears. "I'll be back in the morning. I promise, promise, promise." She touched her forehead to his, a Vryn gesture of affection she had learned. "Sweet dreams, little one," his grip loosened. She gently pulled her hand free and activated the pod's soft lighting. Music began to play, a lullaby from the Vryn homeworld. Kip's eyes began to close. Hana checked each pod one more time, making sure all 7 cubs were comfortable and safe. Then she dimmed the main lights and stepped out into the corridor. The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss. Captain Day stood waiting. He smiled at her, his weathered face kind. "Another day complete." "Another day," she agreed. "Threx complained to me again." Hana sighed. "I know he means well. He wants what's best for them, he does. But he doesn't understand that what's best might not be what he thinks." The captain put a hand on her shoulder. "You're doing important work here, Hana, don't forget that." She nodded, feeling suddenly tired. "I should get some sleep." "You should. Good night." "Good night, Captain." Hana walked to her quarters, her footsteps soft on the metal floor. The ship hummed around her, steady and safe. In a few hours, the cubs would wake. They would call for her, and she would be there just like she promised. Tomorrow would be another day of stories and games, of small hands reaching for hers, of being needed and trusted and loved by 7 small beings who looked nothing like her but felt like family anyway. Tomorrow would be perfect. Or so she thought.